What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Trench Grenade channel. I am your host, the average 55 grain FMJ enjoyer that your mom said that we have at home. Thanks for watching. Guys, the purpose of today's video is I'm going to give you my thoughts on 55 grain for without rule of law, Shtf, home defense, etc. That is what we're going to be discussing today. I'm going to give you my thoughts, and I'm going to dispel some myths and hopefully reassure some of you guys that are using primarily 55 grain for home defense and for your WRL cartridge, and some things that you should think about, and some things that you should probably start, leave those thoughts behind, because you're probably going to be okay in a lot of areas. Before I get too far, we're back doing the tactics stuff. We're back doing the rifleman videos on top of the already, prevalent, the cutting videos with the winter cut. So if you want to continue seeing content, I need you to share this video with one buddy. Hit the like button, comment down below, what ammo are you stockpiled up on for WROL? Are you stockpiled up on 62 grain green tip? Are you using MA55 Alpha 1 that you procured from a truck somewhere? Don't do that, by the way, for legal purposes. Or are you using 55 grain FMJ because you bought 10,000 rounds on sale in your Minecraft server? Let me know down below. And last but not least, join the Patreon. It's $5 a month. It gets you access to a Discord server where you can find buddies to train with, game with, stay up late, talk about all your favorite rifle builds, all your favorite gaming things. Okay, so a lot of guys are stockpiled up on 55 grain. Now, the internet will tell you, in every Garand Thumb video you've ever seen will tell you that 55 grain is not good in ballistics shell. They'll tell you that 55 grain FMJ is not good past 300 meters. They'll tell you that it doesn't buck wind very well. They'll tell you that it's just overall bad. Most of that is not true. So, things that are true about 55 grain, 5.56, 223 FMJ, right? That's primarily what we're talking about. It's just 55 grain, full metal jacket, standard ball stuff. Outside of 350 meters, you will start to see a deviation at distances that will affect the overall minute of angle and the accuracy of the gun. The gun's capability to put rounds where you want it past 350 meters. If you are shooting, I'll say a 4 MOA, 5 MOA, trying to shoot within a small area, okay? So maybe an enemy chest and above, and they're presenting themselves. You will start to see issues at larger engagement, longer distance engagements. However, if you're using a 14.5 inch barrel or longer at standard engagement distances, you're not going to have an issue, even with moderate winds, hitting with 55 grain FMJ. The gun, as long as it has a 14.5 inch barrel and longer, you're going to be fine in most cases using 55 grain. Now, I want to kind of transition over to that discussion. I have a Mar18 that I love dearly. However, if I'm going to use my Mar18 with a 10.3 inch barrel from Daniel Defense, if I'm going to use that thing with 55 grain, I need to understand that it is not as effective as other cartridges. What do I mean by that? A 62 grain green tip is going to perform a lot better out of that shorter barrel. And moving up to a 77 grain open tip match is going to perform way better out of a 10.3 inch. So if you're stocked up on 55 grain full metal jacket and you have 40,000 rounds in your Minecraft server and you're rocking a 10.3 inch, an 11.5, a 12.5, anything below a 14.5, in my experience, is not going to perform very well with 55 grain FMJ, okay? So what does that mean? That means if I shoot you in Minecraft at 100 meters with my 10.3 inch 55 grain loading, it's not going to do as well. It's not going to yaw reliably. What is yaw? Yaw means when it hits you, when the bullet hits its intended target or any target, it's going to go the path of least resistance. So if it hits on the tip and it has enough energy, it will go end over end in the path of least resistance. That is really good for us if we're the firer. So if you're stocked up on 55 grain full metal jacket and you're shooting a 10.3, 11.5 inch, 12.5 inch, anything below 14.5, and you start shooting bad guys in your Minecraft server that are farther than 100 meters, 150 meters, you know, based on the barrel length, obviously, based on the velocity with a certain barrel length they're using, you are going to have issues. Now, if I hit them in the chest with a 55 grain at 100 meters, shooting at Mark 18, they are still going to die. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the yawing capability. If I get a lung shot or a heart shot, they're still going to die, most likely. Okay, what we're talking about is if I triple punch this dude at 150 meters with my Mark 18 with 55 grain, and it doesn't puncture a lung, it doesn't hit them in the heart, and it doesn't paralyze them by getting a spinal column shot or hit them in the eye box, that dude is most likely going to survive, because that projectile is not going to fragment and yaw in the way that I want it to reliably. So, for those guys that are watching this, that are stocking up, if you're rocking a pistol length barrel, handgun length barrel, i.e. the ones I just previously listed, 10.3, 11.5, 12.5, 13.7, I highly recommend you go for the Giga Chad 16-inch, 18-inch, 20-inch barrels if you're going to only use 55 grain. However, if you're using a 14.5, a 16-inch, an 18-inch, or a 20-inch barrel, you're going to be killing very, 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 very effectively with 55 grain full metal jacket. Do not let the hype beast 1 million, 2 million subscriber YouTube channels tell you that you're not going to be killing with 55 grain in Red Dead Redemption. You will. You will be killing as long as you have the velocity to support it. So what is my overall recommendation? You will suffer slight MOA. You will have a slight increase in minute of angle and your overall accuracy using 55 grain the farther out you go. Now, the bullet is traveling extremely quickly because it is a light projectile. The longer barrel you fire it with, the better it's going to perform. So my advice to you would be, if you can rock a 20-inch barrel, do it. For real. Like, I wish I had my FN barrel PSA minus, right? It's not a PSA anymore. It started out as a PSA Saber lower, and now it's a BCM, FN, everything, you know, with the Saber trigger and the Saber lower with an M16A1 stock. But you guys get the point. If you're rocking a ton of 55 grain FMJ and you're like, Trench, I cannot afford to get 10,000 rounds of 62 grain green tip. I can't afford to get 10,000 rounds of 77 grain open tip match, but I can get all this ammo and I train with it. And I don't want to burn my barrel out because I know you'll have a better barrel life with 55 grain, because 55 grain full metal jacket will not burn your barrel out as fast because it is moving more efficiently through the barrel. It's not heating it up as much, and the type of projectile, the projectile that you're firing typically with a 55 grain, unless you're shooting Tula and steel case ammunition, will fly more efficiently compared to an M855 Alpha 1, where an M855 Alpha 1 will tear up the barrel and the rifling, etc. and also eat the bolt. So, if you're watching this still, guys, if you have a ton of 55 grain, you need to be rocking a 16-inch, well, I'll say a 14.5, a 16-inch, 18 or 20-inch barrel. If you're in that 10.3-inch range and you're using a Mark 18 and you got a mag full of M193, right? Full metal jacket, M193, 5.56, you probably should rethink your life. If you're rocking those shorter barrels, if you're on the Hoplophile brass facts train of rocking a 11.5 suppressed, you might want to go over, and maybe I'll use a link. Maybe I'll use a one-time link for PSA right here and go down below. I'll use a one-time link, and you can go over and you need to buy like a couple thousand rounds worth of 77 grain open tip match if you are like really set on running your 11.5 brass facts special with your suppressor. You really do want to have 77 OTM in that thing, because that's going to make your 10.3 inch perform more like a 14.5 with that loading, and it's going to perform better. Okay, so all that talking to say, if you're going to run 55 grain, you're going to be okay as long as you have long enough barrel. I recommend the longer the better. You still got to be able to fight with it. You know, if you're rocking, if you're trying to do any sort of CQB or room clearing, you know, 16 inch is good. 16 inch is a good length. 20 inch is good. You know, if you're going to have to punch somebody at 250, 300 meters, 400 meters, 500 meters, and you got a 20 inch with an ACOG, an RMR, and a Surefire white light, and, you know, your T-Rex arm sling, dude, 55 grain out of your 20 inch is going to smoke that dude. Like, you smoked that dude, for real. You hit that dude a couple times with 55s, and he's going to have some serious issues at 500 meters, okay? Just understand the round's capabilities. Understand that you're going to have a wider deviation at distance. But if you're rocking that 55 grain, 5.56, more barrel length is better, okay? I'll leave a link down below at one-time use for the PSA link for the guys that are rocking the shorties, the 10.3s, the 10.5s, the 11.5s, and the 12.5s. For all you gigachads out there that are rocking the little guys, little barrels, you need to go invest in some 77 grain OTM. For those guys that are on the 55 grain hype, let me know down in the comments below. Hopefully this helps. I rock, you know, I vary. I have my 16 inch Daniel Defense. I have my 20 inch FN, PSA, BCM, whatever you want to call it. But make sure you're using the right loading. If you're rocking 55 grain and you got your PSA special 10.5 inch barrel with 55 grain FMJ, you're going to have a bad time. Like, even that Mosin, that dude with the Mosin, he's going to be hitting you with 7.62 by 54R, and that thing is going to be screaming out of that shit stick, and your little 55 grains are going to be good for suppression. And if you hit them, good, yeah. But it's not going to yaw, and it's not going to fragment effectively, right? So, all that to say is more barrel is more better, unless you put the right bullet in the short barrel. 55 grain is good. It has some issues with wind. It is an ice pick, but it will yaw. M193 will yaw and fragment as long as the velocities that you're asking of it are appropriate. Okay, if you got this far, hit the like button. Comment down below what you want to see next. Join the Patreon. Let me know what bullet you're rocking for WROL. And until next time, it's going to be Trench Grenade, your average 55 grain enjoyer that your mom said that we have at home, signing out. Cheers.
Wolverines!